Hello, my name's Stormo, and this is going to be a full playthrough of Final Fantasy XIII, a rather controversial Final Fantasy game originally released in 2009 but released on the PC just last year. So I'm just going to check my settings. Gamepad controls, yes. On-screen button explanations should be controller type. Camera should be standard. Event subtitles, speaker names, battle difficulty, title selection. Everything else is how I want it to be. Okay, we're about to start. So, if you're wondering where all the important technical options for this game are, it has a launcher. Okay, let's begin a new game as of right now. And we'll go normal mode battling. Yes, we'll begin playing in normal mode. This will be Japanese audio with the English subtitles, because that's how I roll. Actually, it's just because I want to hear the game in Japanese. I've never heard it in Japanese before I started this playthrough, so...
目覚めてからの13日が世界の終わりの始まりだった。
This is a long cutscene. Okay, yep, Final Fantasy XIII. I have coffee, and we have game. So there's probably a couple of things I'm going to try and achieve throughout this run. This isn't going to be any kind of skilled speedrun. I'm not that good a player, or anything weird like that. It's mostly just going to be me playing and talking about the game and what's happening. I'm going to try to avoid major plot spoilers, but it's not like this game has a particularly hard to follow plot, and it is fairly predictable. The chocobo in the hair gets me. I don't understand the chocobo in the hair, and I've played through this game. I'll try not to talk over cutscenes when the characters are talking, but when they're not talking, I'll do a little bit of talking. Hopefully the audio levels on this aren't too bad. I did test them just before I started. They seemed okay. I've turned the game down a little bit using the Windows sound mixer, but this game does have a fairly decent dynamic range, so it might be a bit loud at some points. I'll try and adjust that for future videos, just to see how that works out. This section right now is quite loud in my headphones, but I don't know yet how that's coming up in the video. I guess we'll find out together. The CGI cutscenes in this game are actually pretty impressive. It kind of bothers me because if they made this game today, like in 2014, this would be what the game would actually look like. Assuming you had the graphics hardware to support it. I think we're actually running in the game engine now, so that is what the game looks like. You can usually tell by looking at the character's hair whether you're in a cutscene or whether you're in a CGI cutscene or an in-game rendered cutscene. The lighting's just a little bit nicer in the pre-rendered cutscenes, and the hair is much more detailed. Okay, so we're about to go. I think we start off in combat. No, we don't. And this computer can run the game at a fairly consistent 60 frames per second, but the game has weird frame rate inconsistencies I've noticed. So, I do love the detail in the faces and the character models in this game. Keep in mind, this was a game intended for the PlayStation 3 and Xbox 360, and it hasn't been spruced up all that much for the PC. runs at proper 1080p and 60 frames per second, but I don't think the textures have been massively upgraded or anything interesting like that, so... Okay, and we have combat. Now, the combat system in this game I remember being a bit controversial. I am not going to go through the tutorial because I know how to mash X to win, or in this case being on PC it'll be the A button because I'm using an Xbox One controller, so... But the fundamental strategy is basically the same. Hit the button until the enemy dies. You'll notice the combo meter up in the top right there. It's gone away now. That'll become important later on. I'll talk about it once we get to that point. I'm going to try and make each video around about half an hour long. But we'll see how we go with that. Of course, one of the things with this game is that there are cutscenes that are about that long, so you'll end up with videos that are entirely cutscenes if I do that, so... Pardon me. The length of each video will basically be determined by how much progress I feel I've made with it. And whatever the maximum limit I have on my YouTube account is for videos, I guess. So... But half an hour seems about right. We should be able to get through the first chapter in a single video, I think. No battle. So I've been doing a little bit of research on various mechanics this game has. Yeah, that's not going to hurt that much. And one thing I've discovered is that the way the ATB bar works, the ATB bar is that blue bar that you can see filling in the lower left of the screen there. The way that bar works is that each of those segments has about 100 points that fill up at a rate of about 100 points per second. So it takes about 2 seconds to fill up. But as that bar increases, and the length of it will increase as we go through the game, it actually increases at a faster rate, but not so fast as to overcome the actual increase. We're going to have to drop a potion here, I think. Yep, there we go. And we get our first battle rating, and we absolutely rocked that battle. So I'm pretty happy about it. 6 potions, nice. I don't think I've ever got 6 potions out of that first battle before. I apologise if my swallowing is being picked up by the microphone. I have a really nice cup of coffee here, so... Well, not really nice. It's Makona instant. One day I will have enough money to buy a coffee machine. Maybe I should have started Patreon. And you guys can subscribe and get me a coffee machine. Yeah, the chocobo. So, one thing to note about the Japanese audio in this game is that the Japanese version of the game actually has a really all-star cast. And for example, why do I need... No, I don't want to change the control scheme. The Japanese voice cast is actually really well known. For example, Lightning's voice actress is Maya Sakamoto, who's quite well known. I believe Neil's voice actress is quite well known. I might actually look it up at some point. We will save this game. I have a couple of saves here already, but I'm actually going to overwrite this one, because that's from an older save that I'm no longer using. So... And I haven't made that much progress on that save, so that's what we're going to do there. Okay, we're actually in combat now, but we have to go through these stupid combat screens. Here we go. So yeah, there's no random encounters in this game. in the traditional sense of you wander around the map and all of a sudden you get attacked and you go into a battle cutscene. In this game, all the battles are visible before you enter them. You can walk into monsters to gain... to initiate the battle, and that is how combat this works. There's a few other games, like the Tales series does a similar thing, and various other JRPGs do it that way these days, because the old random monster battle thing was pretty infuriating. So I suppose the big thing to talk about with this game is the fact it's probably one of the more controversial Final Fantasy titles, in the sense that while it's certainly liked by a lot of people, and it sold a decent amount when it came out, it's hated by quite a lot of people as well, and considered by many to be one of the weakest Final Fantasy games. I don't rate it that badly. I don't think it's the series' best Final Fantasy game, but I think it's a lot better than a lot of other Final Fantasies. It's certainly not on the level of Final Fantasy VI or Final Fantasy III or any of the really classic Final Fantasies. But I have a sort of weird relationship with the Final Fantasy series, which is that I tend to find the Final Fantasy games I like the most are the ones most other people don't like as much. So for example, I'm a big fan of Final Fantasy X too. Hate Final Fantasy X, which I know a lot of people love, but I just thought it was dull, trudge, and I gave up on it about halfway through. I'm sure it got better in the second half, but I didn't want to stick with it that long. And funnily enough, Final Fantasy XIII is that kind of a game for a lot of people, where you have to get through this first, I'd say first part of the game, but it's a fairly long first part. The first maybe 10 to 12 hours of this game is this very sort of linear progression through a story. There's very little you can do to alter or change the events that you get as you go through here. Looks like we've just encountered another cutscene.
いくらパーシが嫌だからって素人が軍隊と戦うなんてよ。
軍よりもパルス送りを恐れたんだ。パルス地獄だ。
地獄ね。ここもそんなに変わらんぜ。
飼いならされた軍用だ。大した敵じゃない。
あんたにとっちゃそうだろうがよ。おい。
So yeah, if you look at the minimap up to the right, and I'll just bring up the map screen, so see how this is a long narrow corridor? Yeah, that's basically the entire game, up to a certain point, which we'll get to. So, the game has a really weird way of being plotted out. There's, I think, 13 chapters? Something like that, 12 or 13 chapters. The first 10 chapters are just this single continuous line from point A to point Z, basically. And then Chapter 11 is over half the game, or can be over half the game depending on how you approach it. That basically opens out the worlds, and you'll get everything you need to do what you want. That was the stagger, or as the Japanese refer to it, break system, which I'll talk about in a second. So yeah, essentially the Japanese version, essentially the game is very linear to a point where it suddenly opens out. And I can fully understand why someone wouldn't want to play, 10 hours of this extremely linear story that they weren't enjoying. I think I've gone backwards. Yep, I've gone backwards. The minimap has a yellow arrow which always indicates the direction of the next cutscene, basically. So we keep following that. Actually, what it indicates is the direction of a particular kind of map marker. I'll put a save in. I was saving to save data 4. Yes. Terrified I'm going to accidentally overwrite that other one, but we won't panic too much about that right now. It's the flying soldiers. You might also notice that I always have full health going into a battle. This game doesn't keep your health outside of battle, unless... I think there's a status condition that might do that, but in general, you don't retain health or status effects outside of combat in Final Fantasy XIII. So this can be abused. I know what I'm not doing. Okay, I need to start doing, not that. I don't have it yet. Ah, I haven't unlocked it yet. Okay. Sorry. Okay, that was me pretending I was further ahead in the game than I was. What we want to do once we start getting it is the Libra ability, which scans enemies for their weaknesses and strengths. And that becomes really important as we go through the game because of the battle system. The auto battle command relies on the information you get from using Libra to determine what the optimal commands are for a particular group of enemies. So we get Libra pretty soon, I think. But at the moment we don't actually have much in the way of abilities anyway, and these are fairly basic enemies. So I'll probably just talk about the combo meter for a sec. You see it up in the top right there, with those percentages. The combo meter, the percentages indicate the amount of damage you're doing to the enemy, essentially as a percentage of the damage you're capable of. So 100% means you're doing normal damage to an enemy. As you build the meter, you increase that amount of damage. When the meter fills, you instantly get an extra 100% damage. We'll come back to it after this cutscene. We won't be skipping any cutscenes. This is the item usage tutorial, so we'll skip this. We've already used an item in battle anyway, so it doesn't matter. So yeah, so the percentage indicates how much bonus damage you're doing. When it fills, you end up getting 100% there, so it jumped from 103 to 203%. And the enemy enters a state that the English version of the game calls stagger. In Japanese they call it break. So yeah, so you enter this stagger phase. For the most part, the stagger phase doesn't actually affect enemy behaviour all that much. I think it can interrupt some enemy attacks when they enter the stagger state. Big cutscene coming up here. So I think this is where we switch over to being snow, is it? No, not yet. I know what happens now. Yep.
時間がない。
どうすんだよ。
黙ってろ。
おい待てって置いてくな。こっちはなついていくしかねえんだよ。あれに乗れんじゃねえか。な
らしいな。
よし、俺に任せてきな。じゃあこっちだ、こっち。
Okay, sorry about that. You might have heard some beeping in the background there. There was a truck reversing outside. So, the joys of doing this next to not an open window, but next to a window, at least. So what was I talking about before we were so rudely interrupted by that cutscene and that truck? We were talking about a thing, I'm sure of it. Ah, that's right. I was talking about the stagger state. So the stagger state doesn't have too much of an effect on most things. I need to... Oh, that lightning took a lot of damage there. So the stagger state generally, it can interrupt some enemy attacks. There's a couple of enemy types where the stagger state essentially prevents them from attacking. And the battles are sort of set up around that, where they'll do either a lot of quick damage or decent amounts of damage while you're not in the stagger state, and then once you stagger them they won't do anything to you at all. So you know what, I'm probably going to make this a new save data so that it's always at the end here. Oh crap, I just overwrote a save file I didn't want to overwrite. Because I'm a big fat idiot. I've actually lost like a 12-hour progression in this game because of that. Oh well. I didn't need that save file anyway. That was basically my practice run before I started getting into this seriously, and I was up to the SARS Eidolon fight. We'll get to Eidolons. eventually when we get to them. So, okay, so here we are.
こわもて野郎の出ましたぜ。王に対象者だな。気をつけろ。丁重に扱ってやる。丁重つうのは
楽に死なせてやるって意味さ。
おお、大丈夫。
Yeah, so this explains the attack chain, which is the stagger meter I was talking about before. I'll skip over the tutorial, but this is the battle where it's explained if you haven't figured it out by now. I think this is also where I get the Libra command, so I should probably drop that. Have I got Libra yet? No. Ah, no, I don't. Okay, so the Libra command is a technique, so it appears in a techniques menu. Techniques and items don't take up time in your ATB gauge, they cast instantly in this game. Other thing to note is potions heal your entire party when you drop them in this game. You don't have to cast them on individual characters, so I'll just drop another one there. You will get party healers later on that can heal. There's a role system in this game that isn't unlocked yet, so I'm not going to explain it until we get to it. Some of you might already know what I'm talking about with roles and paradigms, but we're actually a decent distance away from that at this point. This game sort of drip feeds you a lot of its battle features. There's some combat features it doesn't even really explain, like the score screen, which and how your score and your combat rating affect the items you get at the end of a battle, among various other things.
もういいじゃねえか。軍は抜けたんだろ。話したって別に。
パルスのファルシ。目的はパルスのファルシ。ついてきたのは失敗だったな。
そうでもねえよ。
パルスへ移住する皆さん、私はすべての国軍市民を代表して皆さんに心より感謝申し上げます。
So this is where we meet Snow for the first time. Snow is probably my least favourite character in this game, for reasons that will become clear as we play. I'm sorry, but I can't stop laughing at that guy's hair. These guys are basically the Visual K resistance fighting group. So the main difference between Snow and Lightning as a combatant is that Snow basically hits things until they die, whereas Lightning likes to slice with her sort of sword gun thing that she uses. You don't have chests in this game, by the way. What you have are these round things that give you stuff. And they're just magically placed along the way. We'll try and get as many of them as we can because certain kinds of items only appear in them, and some of them give money, and money is actually pretty hard to come by initially in this game. So, and you notice the shop command when I go to save there. Now, which one of these was I was using that one. Okay. That's save data 4. I've accidentally overwritten a 12-hour save file, but we won't talk about that. I am going to leave this video here as we transition into snow, and we will come back with a video where we get to fight with snow. So that will be the next video in the series.